Yo guys, what's going on? It's your boy KG coming back at you with another video. If you're new to the channel here, please make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. But I'm not going to waste y'all's time with this. You can see the title of the video, you can see the title of the presentation. It is MLB The Show 21 tier list, and it is updated as of August 9th of 2021. This is after all of the new content came out with the Team Affinity 3s, the Home Run Derby, the All-Star Series, the BR programs, everything. So, we're going to go ahead and dive right on in with the catcher position. So the catcher position, there's an obvious top three in my opinion. Kyle Schwarber, Player of the Month, Salvador Perez, the new Team Affinity, and your created player. The reason why I chose these three is because A, I platoon them now. I usually used Kyle Schwarber and Salvador Perez. B, now I'm using my cap, so I don't really use either one of them at catcher, but they are both very, very, very good options at catcher. I used both of them for a very long time. I like Salvador Perez as over any other catcher in the game. I think he is the best one, personally, but that is just my opinion. A lot of people like the Schwarber. I do not like to go lefty-lefty, so that is the main reason why I do not have Schwarber in my lineup right now. I have him as a bench bat, but Schwarber is a very good option. Now, if you don't have these options, obviously they're free options, so I'm not really sure as to why you would not have them. But if you do not have them, the 98 JT Real Muto, the All-Star one, is a very good option. I really like his swing a lot. Honestly, I would probably put him ahead of Schwarber, but I know what the consensus is with Schwarber. I really like JT Real Muto. I like his defense. Everything about JT cards I always love, so that's just a kind of personal thing. I like the 90 overall Posada more than the 95 overall Posada, and here's why. The contact numbers are way better on the 90 overall than the 95, so it makes his PCI size bigger. So for that Hall of Fame and Legend difficulty, you really could use that more than the power numbers and the defensive numbers at catcher especially. So that is kind of why I prefer the 90 to the 95. Kyle Farmer, he just in the Player of the Month program, he's really good. He's got a solid swing if you can get used to that big leg kick that he has. He has the contact numbers. He doesn't have the pop versus right. It's only like a 71, I believe. But using him, I kind of actually liked him a little bit. If you could get used to that leg kick, he's actually a pretty good option. 95 Salvador Perez. I do like the 95 Salvador Perez also. I honestly thought he might have been better than my 97 Salvador Perez, but I don't think so. After further review and after further playing with them, I think the 97 is still better. But the 95 one is also a very solid option. B tier, there's too many good options to be using these guys right now, other than bench bats, really, in my opinion. See, same with C tier. I don't think those guys are really guys you should be using necessarily. I think you got A and B options that are free, that are easy to get, that you should be using. So that's kind of my opinion on that. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the first baseman tier. So the first baseman, there's 3 S tiers. You're going to find that's a little bit common in this video. There's going to be a lot more S tiers here in a little bit on some positions. But anyways, the S tier first baseman are Vlad Jr., David Ortiz, and Eddie Murray. I feel like those are the 3 that I see the most. Those are the 3 that I've had most success with outside of Eddie Murray. I really haven't had much success with Eddie Murray at all. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of his swing. So I know a lot of people are, so I kind of put him there as a general consensus. But Ortiz is still the best lefty first baseman. Vlad Jr. is the best first baseman in this game. It's not even close. For me right now, he is currently hitting .467 in 49 games, has 23 tanks, has only struck out 10 times in 50 games, guys. He is amazing. I love my Vlad Jr. card. I don't even know where I would be without Vlad Jr., to be quite honest. I can't say enough about this card. He is so good, and his swing is amazing, and just everything about this card I love. So that's my opinion on Vlad Jr. If you have the stubs to go get him, I would get him. There's no other options that are better, in my opinion. So that's kind of my opinion on that. So moving on, A tier. We have Prince Fielder, the Home Run Derby one, Joey Votto, the new Player of the Month, Pete Alonso, Jonathan Scope might come as a surprise. We'll get to him in a second. Nicholas Castellanos, the new Team Affinity, and Matt Olson, the 98 overall Team Affinity. So we'll start at the top. Prince Fielder, lefty, 5'11", has a smaller zone. I kind of like the smaller zone on Prince, and here's why. Prince's swing is pretty fast, right? And I think he's a mini Ortiz. I just don't think he has the PCI size of Ortiz. just personally. He has a little bit better defense, but over at the corner infield, I don't really care about the defense, to be honest. His swing's good, like I said before, and I think he's got really solid overall just play. I played with him for 30-some games, I believe. I hit like 360 or something with him. Not terrible, not great, but by all means, that was boosted because of the event. So, I mean, on Legend, I didn't really get to play with him that much because I never really gave him a fair shot. I really liked Pete Alonso more. I really liked Vlad, obviously, so I liked Ortiz more. I really never got around to using Prince Fielder that much. I still think he's a solid option, though, if you really like Prince. Joey Votto was a letdown, I think, for a lot of people, statistically speaking. Is he a fun card to use? Yes. But he's slow. His defense is great. Don't get me wrong. His defense is great. It's the best at first base there is. But he's so slow, A. B, his power numbers versus lefties really aren't there, but obviously he had a bad month against lefties. So I'm not really surprised by that, but at the same time, I thought they might have juiced it just because they did with Schwarber. I don't know, but I think he's still solid if you can get used to that leg kick. That leg kick is something that you really have to get used to, and it's something that you really have to get in the lab and grind with, because I personally don't like it at all. Moving on, Pete Alonso, I kind of touched on him a little bit. I used him for some tournament play. Not the ESL, but the bases loaded tournaments that I host. I will go ahead and leave a link in the description. We're currently hosting one now. Besides that point, I used him in the finals. He was very good. He had a nuke for me in the finals, which is awesome. I liked him over Prince personally. A lot of people didn't think he had the 125 pop like as an animation. Like, I'm trying to explain like what I mean by that. Basically, he didn't live up to the 125 power is what I'm trying to say for a lot of people. Which I don't really know why that is, but he lived it up to me. Like he was a lot of gap to gap power is what he was. He was a lot of doubles. He didn't hit a lot of nukes, but he did hit a lot of doubles. He was one of those guys that kind of just hit the gap every single time he stepped into the plate. So that's why I really liked Pete Alonso. Jonathan Scope. That one might be a surprise for a little bit of people. Here's why. Jonathan Scope, for me, I'm pulling up my stats on Legend right now. I played 22 games with Jonathan Scope on Legend. Pinch hitting or actually starting, because when he came out, I really liked this card. And he's hitting 590 on Legend for me. Has 11 home runs in 22 games. And it's just absurd what this card does for me. His swing is amazing, righty-righty. Versus righties, he's hitting 545. Versus lefties, he's hitting 650. It's unreal. He can play first, second, third, and shortstop. He can play anywhere in the infield. I think he's the best bench bat in the game right now, personally. I truly believe he is the best bench bat you can have in the game. And, I mean, you can sub him anywhere. So, in the infield. So that makes him even more usable. When you get him paralleled up, I have him at parallel 2 right now, so I don't have him that high. But he has gold defense at first. He has silver defense everywhere else. That's more than serviceable. So I think he's one that you guys should definitely be having on your bench. Same with Nicholas Castellanos. Castellanos is another one that I feel like should be on your bench. Maybe some of you guys' starting lineup. If I were to play Castellanos, I would play him at the corner infield positions. I would not be playing him in the outfield, just simply because of his defense being so low. He has a great bat. His swing is a little slower, but, I mean, if you can get over that, honestly, his stats make up for it. He does have a good power attribute as far as that goes. He can't hit it over the fence. That's what I like about him. His PCI size is more than big enough, obviously. I believe he has max contact on my team. I'm not 100% certain. Yes, he does. So he has max contact on my team. I'm not sure if he comes with that or not. But he is really solid option to have at your corner infield positions. 98 Matt Olson. I think this card got overlooked quite a bit just because of all the content that did drop that day. This card is still a very solid option to have if you like Matt Olson. I just think that there's other options there that are a lot better in this list, personally. B tier, I'm going to say the same thing about that as I just said with Matt Olson. I just think there's a lot better of options. Some of these guys are bench bats, like Mountcastle is a really good bench bat. Jim Tomei is a really good bench bat. But other than that, Eduardo Escobar, I think, is a good bench bat. But I think these guys are just not really worth your time getting. Same with C tier. I use Jared Walsh as a bench bat. He's probably one of my best lefty bench bats in the game. Currently, he's hitting 353, but that's all on Legend and all off the bench. I love Jared Walsh, so... Plus, I'm an Angels fan. So that's kind of a bias thing, possibly. But I think his swing is really good, and I think he's also really just solid all the way around. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the second baseman. Now, the second baseman here, you obviously see more in S tier. We have Trey Turner, Jackie Robinson, Wander Franco, Mookie Betts, and Joe Morgan. Reason why you are going to see more in S tier on the middle infield and the outfield positions are obviously because there's a lot more options at those positions. Trey Turner is the best card in this game, and I don't know if it's debatable, honestly. I really don't know if it's debatable, and it's because of his quirks, and his swing is just so good. On Legend right now, Trey Turner is hitting 436 for me, has 22 nukes in 84 games. He's hitting 424 against righties, 469 versus lefties. He's insane, guys. If you don't have Trey Turner starting on your team, you need to have him starting somewhere, whether it be second, third, shortstop, center field, wherever. He can play all of them well. He's actually a very viable outfielder, and I'm sure Magunski has covered this in depth because he plays him in center field, left field. He plays him in the outfield. So his speed more than makes up for the reaction time, and I think he's somebody you have to play. His swing plays, he's just so good, guys. But I'm going to move on. Jackie Robinson, he's kind of the old news, but he's still one of the best second basemen in the game. He will be probably till the end of the game. His swing's really good. He's fast. He's a 5-tool player. He's one of those guys that gets the job done. He's got gold defense. He's really good. He's really good, guys. Wander Franco, I really like Wander Franco. I have him as my shortstop. You'll see a lot of these guys overlap in my shortstop list. I really like Wander. He's probably my favorite shortstop to use in the game right now. Switch hitting, 5'11", which isn't too small. I think it's 5'11", 5'10". It's not too small. I like his swing a lot. He's got good enough pop from both sides, good contact, good speed. He's a 5-tool guy. You know, a lot of these guys are 5-tool guys. Mookie Betts, I play him in center field right now. He's super good. Oh my gosh, this Mookie Betts is amazing. And I get a lot of people don't have the steps for him, so I understand if you don't have him. But in 10 games so far, all on Legend, he's hitting 400, 4 home runs, and he's only struck out 3 times. I mean, this card is just unreal. He's hitting 500 versus lefties, 350 versus righties. He's just amazing. Honestly, you just got to get used to the strike zone. He is 5'9", so at the end of the day, if you're not used to the small zones, you got to get used to those. Not the end of the world, though, because, like I said, he has been one of my favorite cards to use in the game right now, as of right now. He's been my best hitter since I got him. So that's something I can say on Mookie Betts. Joe Morgan, his swing looks good. His defense is great. He's got speed. He's Joe Morgan. Obviously, he's probably the last option. He's borderline S and A tier, in my opinion. I don't know if I would spend the stubs for him. I would probably sell him if I had him. I don't think he plays as well as the other 4 on S tier, but I feel like you have to put him in S tier subjectively. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to A tier. Eduardo Escobar, his swing is solid. You can play him at second base still. I think he's good enough to play at second base. Like I said, I think there's other options. Xander Bogaerts is really good. I think he's one of the more underrated guys. So, Ski and AJ, they love to play with Bogaerts. And they constantly talk about how good he is. He is that good. He truly is that good. And I've used him a little bit. I personally still like Wander better. But, I mean, it's all a preference thing, you know? Like, I think Bogaerts is still really good, though. Correa, I think he's a little too slow to play your shortstop position, but he's definitely serviceable at shortstop. Alfonso Soriano, or second base, I mean, my bad. Second base, Carlos Correa. Alfonso Soriano at second base. Here's my thing with Soriano. You either love the guy or you hate the guy. There's no in between. And I am one of those that hates the guy. Like, if I could, I wouldn't even put him on this list. But I know he has to be on this list. He has to be included because he is Alfonso Soriano, and he's one of the statistically best cards in the game. Excuse me. And then last but not least, Marcus Semien. Honestly, if I could put him in S tier and it makes sense, I would. Marcus Semien, for me, was my favorite second baseman for the longest time. He played 101 games for me, batted .375, had 19 homers. He hit .409 against righties and .289 against lefties. His lefty stats weren't that great, but his righty stats were so good. 125 contact, that was amazing. His swing was really good. He never was that over-the-fence power kind of guy, but he had such good fielding, good speed. I mean, he was solid. He was solid all the way around. B and C tiers, you guys can kind of take a look at those. Personally, I would not be using any of those guys, like I said before. There's just so many good options in this game that if you're using those guys, you're using them because you want to use them, I think. So really, realistically speaking, I am ranking these guys, but if you guys want to use these cards, feel free. I mean, this is your team, you know what I'm saying? But these are what I think are the best cards in the game and how I would rate them in order. Not really in order by, more order by tier rather than order by within the tier. So that's kind of how I would put second baseman. So we're going to move on to the third baseman now. The third baseman, we have Chipper Jones, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Wander Franco, Trey Turner. I've already talked about three of those guys amply. Vlad, best card in the game behind Trey Turner. Trey Turner's the best card in the game. Wander, I really like him a lot. Switch hitter, 5 tools, so on and so forth. Chipper Jones, we all know about Chipper Jones. Chipper Jones is still the best third baseman in the game. Hits both sides really well, has a good swing, has good fielding, has good enough speed. He has everything you could possibly want in a third baseman. Not much else to say about him. A tier, I still have Kyle Seager there. I think he's still one of the best lefties in the game. For third base, he is all around solid. He's got good defense, decent amount of speed, good overall hitting stats. His swing's good. He plays well. Rafael Devers, I think he plays very well. His swing is so glitchy, so good from the left side. Lefty might not be as good. You might have to platoon him a little bit, but if you can make it work, make it work. Castellanos, we've already talked about him. Simeon, we've already talked about him. Correa, we talked about him. Bogarts, we talked about him. I mean, a lot of these guys we talked about already. B and C tier, like I said before, I'm going to keep saying it. I think there's better options at B and C. Or A and B, or A and S, my mistake, than B and C. Like, there are so many free options in here that you should not be using these guys, like I said, unless you want to use them. So, moving on to the shortstop area. So, shortstop, we have Wander Franco, Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, and my creative player. If you don't want to use those three, obviously use your creative player. Simple as that. A tier, Trevor Story. He's a little overpriced now. He's still one of the top shortstops. He might even belong in S tier, honestly, with those guys. I think he's that good. Simeon, we talked about him. Ernie's still one of the top shortstops in the game. I won't ever take him out of A tier probably because his swing plays well. His defense is good. The only thing that he lacks is speed and contact versus righties. That's it. And he still plays really well. Correa, we already know. Groshans is still solid. I think Groshans is still really good. I thought he was really underrated, personally. I think because of his contact and, you know, I think he was one of the better shortstops there for a little while until these new cards came out, like Story and all that. When Story came out, it was just not comparable to Groshans. So, and they came out around the same time. So it was kind of hard to get Groshans in the lineup. Kyle Farmer, I wouldn't play him at short. I'd play him at catcher if I played him. Gloss, he's kind of long swing, you know. He's okay. Justin Turner and the C tier, any of these guys in C tier, I still really wouldn't play that much if I could, unless you want to, like I said. Moving on to the outfield. So the outfield, we have obviously a full list here. S tier. These are the guys that I would start. These are the guys that I still start today. Mookie Betts, obviously, is my center fielder. Trout is my left fielder. Bryce Harper is going to be my right fielder, I want to say. It's either him or Vlad. Right now, Acuna is there, but I haven't purchased Vlad yet. I think I'm going to put Vlad in right field. I'm not too sure what I'm going to do there, but they're very interchangeable. Those guys right there. Your Cap can obviously go in the outfield if you don't feel comfortable enough with any of these guys. Acuna belongs in S tier. All those guys right there are solid options. Very good options. Trout is still the best outfielder in the game, behind Mookie now, I think. Honestly, if you can get used to the height thing, some would say Trout is still the best outfielder in the game because he's not 5'9". Personally, I like Mookie Betts more. It's just a matter of opinion on that. So those two guys are definitely the top two right now in the outfield. Vladimir Guerrero Sr. should probably be your right fielder. Him or Bryce. I think you can kind of mix those two. Acuna, if you can't afford Vlad or Bryce, Acuna is your next bet. That's how I would kind of rate them. That's why I have Acuna in S tier with them. A tier, Cedric Mullins. A lot of people love that Cedric Mullins. His defense is bad. His arm is atrocious. His bat is really good, though. Like I said, the same problem with Mookie as Cedric has. He's 5'8". Mookie's 5'9". You know, these short guys, they're shorter zones. They're harder to get used to. A lot of guys like Cedric, though. His swing's really good. He's good lefty-lefty, even, honestly. His swing plays really well. Aaron Judge, I think he's another one that's solid, even though he's tall. If you're not on Legend, I think he's one of your best outfielders in the game, easily. Alfonso Soriano, we've already talked about him. Trey Turner, already talked about him. Jason Dominguez, I think he still plays really well. He's a good center fielder. Like, right now, if I couldn't afford Mookie, then probably I would be playing Trout in center, Acuna in right, and, like, Jason Dominguez in left. That's probably what I would do, personally. That is what, if you're on a budget, that is what I would do, is play Jason Dominguez in left or center and move Trout to left, you know, something like that. That's what I would do. If I didn't have enough for Mookie and Bryce and Vlad Sr., you know, if I had a little bit of a budget, you know, that is probably what my outfield would look like. Larry Walker, he's good for what he is. He's a good against righties. Obviously against lefties, he's not the greatest. Honestly, though, his lefty-lefty swing is not as bad as people were giving him harps for. You know, I really like him lefty-lefty, too. I think Larry Walker went underrated, personally. But he is a little slow. His defense is good, though. Moving on to B tier. These guys are bench bats, basically. That's what they are. They're bench bats. Tyner's a bench bat. Justice is a bench bat. Braun I still use on my bench. Castellanos, Adolis Garcia. Austin Martin, he can be in the outfield if you want him to be, if you can't afford Dominguez, I guess. Because he's got defense. And he's got balanced hitting if you can't afford Dominguez, but I would try to get Dominguez. C tier, same thing. These guys are bench bats. Or if you just want free options, they're there as well. These guys really, honestly, the outfield right now is pretty loaded. All these guys, I feel like, are usable. They're very usable. It's just a matter of what your preference is. Moving on to the starting pitching. So the starting pitching, I am changing things up a little bit because I think there's more than 5 S-tier pitchers. I think there's 6. Here's why. DeGrom, well, let's go over it first. DeGrom, Leiter, Lynn, Cabrera, Ohtani, and Cliff Lee. The reason why I put Cliff Lee in here, right now the first 5 are my rotation, but I think Cliff Lee belongs in this because I think he's ahead of those guys in A tier, but I don't think he's as good as the guys in S tier. I think he's kind of like a tier of his own. I think you could argue Paxton can go here too. I think. Personally, I've had success with Paxton. I've had success with Cliff Lee. But I also know that I have crushed both these guys, and I know how to hit them. So it kind of is it's going to depend on who you play. You know, I mean, those guys, they're good. They're solid guys. Those guys in S and A tier, they're solid pitchers. They're decent enough pitchers to get by. And I think that these guys in S tier are your best pitchers right now. They're the guys I run with, those first 5. DeGrom is the best pitcher in the game. It's not close. I honestly think Lance Lynn is the second best pitcher in the game. And I don't know why, necessarily, but he is what Cliff Lee is from the right side. And I think he's a lot better than what Cliff Lee was. He dots everything. He's got good break on his pitches. Good enough velocity. He's solid. He's super solid. If you don't have Lance Lynn, you need to pick him up. Edward Cabrera, he's still good, but people are seeing him a lot better. I don't think he's as good as he was for the long stretch of time, just because we've seen him so much now that everybody knows how to hit him. So, Ohtani's hit or miss. Obviously, his hitting makes up for some of his pitching, but his pitching is not the best. I have pitched really well with Ohtani so far, but I've barely played anybody that's good with Ohtani. So it's kind of hard for me to gauge what I've done with Ohtani so far. Leiter's still good. I like Leiter a lot. I got him parallel 4, almost parallel 5. I think him and Cliff Lee are very similar in how they play. It's just a matter of which one you prefer and which one you have the stubs for. So that's kind of my opinion on that. A tier, if you don't have enough stubs to get Leiter, you don't have enough stubs to get Ohtani, maybe you don't have DeGrom yet, I don't know. Those two guys that I just said, Lynn, maybe you don't have enough stubs to get Lynn. Fergie Jenkins is really good. And yes, his PCI is big, but honestly, his pitches are really good. You didn't see him a lot when he came out, so a lot of people haven't seen him much. And honestly, I think he's really good, personally. I really like him. Paxton, he's borderline SA tier, I think. I think he's the 6th or the 7th best pitcher. Glavine, I had great success with there for a long time. It's just that his PCI now is so big in comparison to DeGrom, Leiter, Lynn, Cabrera, all those other guys that it's just not really feasible to use him anymore. The hitters are just so much better than him now. I wouldn't probably use Glavine much. 96 Live Series DeGrom. There's a 99 DeGrom that's free. Get him if you want to use DeGrom, which the 99 DeGrom is the best DeGrom in the game. So there's no purpose in not having the 99 DeGrom. Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns is okay. I would not use him anymore because honestly, I think he's batting practice at this point. I don't think he's that good. It's the same thing with Glavine. His hits per 9 is just too low. And his sinker is kind of flat, in my opinion. It's not the greatest. I just think Corbin Burns isn't the greatest anymore like he used to be. Crochet, I think, can still be effective depending on who you're playing. He only has the 4 pitches, obviously. He's good for short amount of times. Like 4, 5, 6 innings at the most. And then your opponent's going to start picking up on him. So Crochet, I think, can be solid still. I just would not still have him in your rotation, personally. I think there's better options. B tier and C tier, you guys can kind of take a look at those. Fernando Valenzuela, that might come as a surprise. This card stinks now. You guys need to get Fernando Valenzuela out of your starting pit rotations. He's not that good. The screwballs are not that good. They patched him, nerfed him, whatever case may be. Whatever the word is you want to use, they made him not good. That's the word for it. I do realize now that I'm looking at this, I did forget one pitcher. Freddie Peralta, I would probably put him at A tier. I don't think he's that great, but he still belongs in that A tier. Vita Blue, I would probably put him in B tier as well. I'm going to add him as well in that list just because I don't think he's anything special. That's another one that I kind of forgot to put on here. But, I mean, obviously these guys got forgotten for a reason. I mean, nobody really uses them that much. So that's where I would put those two. I'm going to go ahead and say A tier for Freddie Peralta, B tier for Vita Blue. And you can take a look at the rest. If you guys want to ask me any of these, just let me know. Keuchel, I think, is low-key good. I think he's the best one in B tier. I've actually used Keuchel a little bit, and Keichel's actually pretty good. Nobody saw that card, so that helps a lot when people don't see the card. You know, like, a lot. That helps with deceiving of the pitches and things like that. Now, is his hits per 9 high? No, it's 91. But he's actually better than I thought he was going to be. So, take that for what it is. We're going to go ahead and move on to the bullpen. This is the final slide. This is the final bit of the video. So I'm going to remind you guys one more time. Make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. This took some time to make. So, the bullpen. Some of these guys in A tier I use. Some of these guys, all these guys in S tier I use, obviously. So S tier, I think these are the top 6. Yeah, 6 that you should have. And some of these guys in A tier I use. I don't use any of these guys over here. So we're going to start at the beginning here. Mariano Rivera needs to be in your pen. He's the best bullpen arm in the game, easily. Gossage of the 99, I have him. He's not much better than the 95, but he is better. So subjectively, he has to be an S. If you don't have enough to get Gossage, use the 95. The 95 is just as good. Gregory Soto has been my best lefty, believe it or not. I really like Gregory Soto. I didn't think I was going to like this card when he first came out. His control gets a little hectic at times. He's really good at striking people out. And I just really like him, personally. He gets a little wild at times. I still think Chapman's better than him, but it's not by much, honestly. It's not as big of a difference as I thought it was going to be. So, take that for what it is. Kendall Graveman, I haven't got to use this card a lot, but from what I have used of him, he has been more than solid. I like his pitch mix. His windup is kind of easy to read, though. So, I'm not sure how good he's actually going to be. For now, he's definitely an S tier, but I don't know how much longer he'll stay there. Dennis Eckersley, this card has been surprisingly good. Through 8 games, he has a 1.3 ERA for me, 16 Ks, 13 and a third inning. My opponent's batting average with him is 128. That is the lowest in my pen right now. So I'm kind of surprised by that card. That card's kind of thrown me for a whirl. I really like Dennis Eckersley. I didn't think I was going to, but I do. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Josh Hader, I don't use him. If I want an extra lefty in my pen, I will throw him in. That would be the one I would throw in. And I would probably replace Kenley Jansen. Kenley Jansen is not that good. I've tried to make him good, and he's not that good. He's appeared in 4 games. He's pitched 5 innings. He has a 5.4 ERA. And my opponents are hitting 286 against him. That's high. That's probably the highest in my pen. By far. And it's probably not even close. I'm kind of looking through my pen right now. It's probably not even close. Yeah, it's not even close. So he's the highest one. So Kenley is definitely not worth your stubs. Unfortunately, I locked him in when I went and got Mookie. So I really can't get rid of him because I thought he was going to be good. He's not that good. Alex Reyes has been a surprising one as well. A lot of people struggle with this card. I actually pitch well with Alex Reyes. My opponents are hitting 132 against him. So I think that's good. I mean, he's pretty solid. I really like him. I think he's worth putting in your bullpen. Rob Dibble. Rob Dibble's another one that I kind of struggled with, but I think he still warrants a spot in your bullpen. My opponents hit 159. The problem with Rob Dibble is he gives up home runs. Like, he'll give up 1 hit and it's going to be a home run. That's just what it is. And is that good? No, but he's solid. Like, I think he's really good. I still think he's one of the better bullpen arms in the game. Same with Lee Smith. Lee Smith is another one of those that it's like he's kind of one-dimensional in what he does, but he can get you through an inning. That's what you need sometimes. It's just get through the inning, you know, against some of those weaker opponents maybe. Lee Smith, I think, was still solid for me. If you know how to throw the forkball effectively, he's very solid. If you don't know how to throw a forkball, then don't use him. B tier, these guys are all still very usable cards. Same with C tier, like Shane Green, for example, he's very usable. A lot of those guys I don't really like going C tier, honestly. So I probably wouldn't use those guys much. Shane Green is still one that is usable. Jake McGee's alright. Adam Wainwright's alright. Rob Nen, same thing. O'Day, same thing. Familia, he's kind of lost his touch. And Raleigh Fingers. Raleigh Fingers is kind of good in the fact that nobody really uses him. So nobody's really seen him that much. But his hits per 9 is really low still, so I probably wouldn't use Raleigh Fingers that much. So that is the end of the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, man. Like I said before, if y'all are new to the channel, please make sure you guys like and subscribe. And leave any comments you guys have for me, man. For content ideas, for any ideas that you guys have in my future videos, please share them. I mean, I'm more than open to the ideas. Any constructive criticism you guys have from me as a content creator, go ahead and drop them in the comments, guys. I want to hear you guys' input. So, without further ado, that is the end of the video, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed. Make sure y'all have a blessed night. Peace.